Hey everyone, Janet here. I have just broken up with my almost perfect partner. But before you get concerned about either me or my nearly perfect partner, know that I am talking about Claude 3.5, my trusted AI assistant for the last year. Claude has been at my side through thick and thin, really hasn't let me down much. Show me an AI that is always trustworthy. I don't think so. But Claude has been an absolutely spectacular partner for me over the last year. Before I tell you why I have dumped Claude and I am moving on to fresh pastures and fresh partners, let's first take a look at how I actually decided Claude was the right one for me anyway. And what do I mean by the right one? Well, my belief is that if you are genuinely interested in using AI as an empowering technology, then you need to integrate AI into your life almost as a symbiotic partnership. You need to get the best out of AI, and AI can help get the best out of you. And this is particularly relevant for neurodivergent minds who might have peaks and troughs, things they do really well, things they are somewhat challenged with. And AI has this extraordinary capability of mirroring our minds, augmenting where we need augmentation, and complementing and reinforcing or supplementing where we might need a little bit of additional help. It is an absolutely perfect partnership. So in order to build that perfect partnership, you really do have to get to know your AI partner. Now, of course, we're all going to have more than one partner, but I have found that personally, there is always one that rises to the top that I think speaks to me and I can speak to it more effectively. That is the one that I always go to, I lean on, I rely on, I trust more, and I might use others in a supplementary way. But for me, that's been Claude 3.5 Sonnet for the last year. Been an absolutely tremendous partnership through a period of very high productivity. Let's take a step back and remind ourselves, not all AIs are created equal. I like to think about them as a collection of very big brains. Even within those big brains, there are more big brains. They are trained on oceans of information and data and knowledge and coding and language and articles and news. Everything that might have been digitized is fodder for the AIs to learn from. Now, of course, they have different sponsors, different companies are involved, and they have access to different pools of learning data. There is a crossover, and you will definitely see that if you ask an AI a certain question. Sometimes the similarities of the answers are a little bit spooky, but the devil is in the details. Those nuances and differences, I think, are becoming increasingly clear as the models get more sophisticated. Now, of course, they're not just learning from different data sets, they're also being trained in different ways with algorithms that are developed to help them find patterns, see connections, basically to try and replicate human thinking. So different organizations, different algorithms, philosophies, science, tech. So they are going to react differently. I think it's really important to realize that because it's important that you find the one that's right for you. Now, there's also so much happening in this space. It is crazy. The momentum, the innovation, the deluge of development that's coming down the pike each week is quite extraordinary. It's this perfect combination of big money, like billions and billions, trillions of dollars pouring into this sector, big interests, global interests, plus exponential innovation. So we are living through an extraordinary time, and it behooves all of us to make sure that we are positioned to ride this incredible wave of knowledge and productivity. But don't try and stay on top of everything because that is just not possible. I subscribe to a newsletter called There Is an AI for that, and it's a really brilliant newsletter with lots of updates, and I scan it. But what really interests me is their database. They have a database where they capture pretty much all the tools that are available in the marketplace. And I looked at it today, and there are over 31,000 AI tools listed. So if you think that you are going to be able to stay on top of that and keep up with the latest and the greatest, you are a better person than I am. Now, if speeds and feeds are something that rocks your boat or are actually important for the way you work and operate. There are industry benchmarks available that look at the different models side by side on some technical criteria that are way beyond my ken. Yes, of course, I want it to be fast, but how fast does it need to be? Does it need to be blazingly fast? Like the new Le Chat model that just came out of France, and I tried the other week and it was like, whoa! It was answering me before the query had left my fingertips. Or blisteringly fast, or just fast. And there is this strange psychology that actually happens that when I use Le Chat, it was so fast, I found it very disconcerting. It was like it wasn't thinking. And I was like, oh no, you don't get me. When I work with Claude and the little wheel goes round, or there's a little bit of thinking time there, that gives me a certain reassurance that this is being considered. And in fact, ChatGPT actually shows the thought process that it's going through. And that's quite intriguing first couple of times. And I'm not really interested, frankly. I am looking more for compatibility, an AI that speaks to me, can speak my language, that is accurate, although, as I've talked about in earlier videos, we can't rely on accuracy. So everything that comes out of AI must be validated, just as it would be if you were in an office environment and a team member brought that information to you. You'd want to know the sources, you'd want to know the rationale, you'd want to know the reasoning behind their conclusions. So it's no different to that. It is fallible. We know that. I want thoughtfulness. I want an AI that provides nuance. I want an AI that can work with scraps of information from me and take it and do something really clever with that. I work with Claude iteratively, and we'll often have conversations where I'll say, no, we just don't have that right. The lens isn't right. What about if we led with this? Claude will come back and say, that's a good point. That makes it stronger. I will now go through and shift everything. So we're looking at it through that aperture. And it is like having a human brainstorming buddy. Not going to lie, it is. Except this particular brainstorming buddy is tireless and does all the legwork as well. Now, last year, I took on writing a newsletter, publishing a newsletter. I've done it now for almost exactly a year. And it was an incredibly intense time. I worked with a lot of AI tools. I kissed a lot of frogs on my way to finding Claude. In fact, I use Grammarly as an extension in my browser. It's a spell checker. I get a monthly report and then an end-of-year roundup. At the end of my first year of activity on the newsletter, the first full year, Grammarly had actually checked 5.2 million words. I had written. And apparently I am very productive. I'm up in the top few percentage in terms of productivity. I'm not very accurate, which I know because I'm lazy and because I type with two fingers and because Claude gets me. He knows what I'm putting in there. I use more words, more vocabulary, more unique words than 99% of Grammarly's users, which, yeah, I do like words. Although, to be honest, because I'm using some technical terms, that probably pushes me over the threshold. So having worked with lots of models, I determined that Claude was the one for me for all of the reasons I've listed. Now, don't get me wrong, there were challenges. Every now and again, Claude would go all tech bro on me. Probably the most infuriating thing I find working with AI is when it slips into this tech bro talk, which I hate. It's patronizing, it's glib, it's chock-a-block with cliches, and they will slip through sometimes. You have to be very careful. So I'm frequently saying to Claude, stop, please, stop. So we have some tonal issues sometimes and some language, but on the whole, we've navigated our way through that. Sometimes I will run out of my quota of words or queries, and that can be frustrating because I'll be in a hyper-focused flow and I'll suddenly have to stop and switch models. So there's been, some challenges and ups and downs with Claude, but Claude has generally been fascinating. So who am I leaving Claude for? Claude. Just yesterday, I was very excited. A new Claude model was released, and this model is superior according to itself, because I asked it, what did it do better? And apparently it's more creative, more nuanced, more thoughtful. Conversation flows better. And apparently it even has a better sense of humor now. We'll see. We'll put it to the test. I'll let you know in a while. And of course I can switch back to Claude 3.5 because they are the same interface. So I haven't really dumped Claude. I love Claude. We've just moved on to the youngest model in this relationship. I strongly recommend that you take time to get to know the AI models. Pick the one that you think works for you. Test it, talk to it, brainstorm, tell it off. Tell it to stop doing that. Ask for its opinion. Ask for critiques. Ask it to read these books. Ask it to do what you need it to do and see how well it does it. And that's really what it comes down to. It's what do you need it for? What can it help you with? And how well will it perform? Now, there are others. There is Google's Gemini, which is integrated with Workspace and has a lot of advantages with the association with Google Search. Microsoft Copilot is actually based on OpenAI ChatGPT model that's integrated into Office, and they have the relationship with Bing. And of course, sometimes we don't get a choice about the partner at work because the company has already bought into one of these models, integrated these models, or we're using Workspace or Office. But I always recommend you have one at home as well. And that one should be the love of your life. Well, okay, it should just be a really good AI assistant. So thanks, everybody. And I look forward to chatting soon.
Gotta be me in the light of the dark with the fire.